Alright, welcome back to another game review, or coaching, or whatever you want to call this. This time we are looking at YooCanFly, Mr. Yellow in this picture, and his build, and we're talking about gold elo, so I will not be going into as many details on macro decision making and stuff. It will be more towards basic stuff. What you should keep in mind is that YooCanFly is someone who has played a lot of Classic, or at least more than the typical ranked player at this elo, so he is more experienced and is most likely going to win this game. And he does. Um, so let's start with role pick. So we agreed, as you could see, and the role consists of Chained Fist, Goblin Copter, Peewee, Ranger, Steed, Tempest, Elite Archer, Graal, Disciple, and Shadow Dancer. And when I see this role personally, I would always pick Tempest, Archer, Graal, and Chained Fist. And I think the two other units are quote-unquote free. You can go Copter Peewee, which is what I would consider doing. Gives you a more stable early game, a little bit more tank value, covers your weak-ish wave on wave 6 quite decently, but you can also go for Steed and Disciple, in my opinion. At least that's what I would go for. I would want Tempest and Elite Archer as my essentially only combo that will give me strong waves and power spikes around mid-game to play for. And when I want to open with Archer, which is one of the two good openers we have, then I really want Chain Fist as it gives me a very good combo in the early game. You can probably also open with Goblin Copter and then try to sort of play for a Shadow Dancer build, but I feel like Shadow Dancer is much stronger with auras that give it attack speed, and we don't really have that. And I don't like Disciple Steed as the only combo because it gets countered by spam and we don't have anything to really deal with spam. And there are no Legion spells that we need to specifically pick our role around. Like, I don't know, if there was Sorcerer or something, I would always go for the Archer role. Something to keep in mind is that Elite Archer, in my opinion, is a very difficult opener to play because you need to understand splitting very well and all these things. And we will see this, and I will try to give you a short rundown of what to do. But I also, this is something I want to try to put in the description, want to mention is that Ofma has done an in-depth guide on Elite Archer, and I think it's a very, very good video on YouTube, and you should definitely check it out if you want to play Elite Archer as an opening. Alright, so that's what I would do. What happened in the game is that we did not pick the Tempest, and instead we picked the Shadow Dancer. And why don't I like this? Well, because Elite Archer and Shadow Dancer are two carry units which need tanks to be enabled, and they do the same damage typing. So you essentially end up drafting yourself into a hole where you have too many carry units, too little tank value for them, and you will be only strong on certain waves. And if I see this roll, for example, if this game ends up going to wave 13, we are in a lot of trouble because we don't have a good answer for that wave and we will leak 200% there, and this just gives away a lot of gold. Alright, this is why I would pick a different role, but it's not a huge deal. Right, so do I talk about the macro decision making first, or do I talk about the opening first? Right. Let's talk about the general game first. So what I think gold elo really you should be doing is auto sending. You should have the auto send button on, and what you should do is focus on your lane and focus on your lane only. Try to stay close to recommended value and try not to grief your build. Try to have your tanks tank before your damage units, try to have decent typing for the wave, and auto send at least until wave 10. Because Legion is incredibly difficult, and with the typings and value and workers and all these things, it's most important to manage your economy and to manage what you are doing with your lane. if you try to focus too early on interacting with your opponent, it usually ends up, well, costing too much focus, and then you will make a bad decision. So what's happening in this game is we are auto-sending, right? We're doing king up, snail, snail king up, fiend, totally fine. And just on wave 6, you saw we leaked big on wave 5. I will talk about this a little bit later when I talk about the build. It's like, look at this on wave 6. We got starved. We leaked big. But look at this. We're 10 workers. This is 2 or 3 more workers than everyone else in game. And we are like 30 income ahead already. Yeah. Just by auto sending and being essentially close-ish to value, 150, 170, 290, 400, 430, this was a little bit too little, but it's fine. 560, we have already outsnowballed everyone. Okay, and this is the sort of state that we need to reach, and this is also where you can see that Yellow is a classic player with a lot of experience, because he's able to stay so close to value with having a quote-unquote normal-ish build. Yeah, if you see this, his elite archer is in front, he has some tanks behind. It's a very decent build. This is much more likely to be 2k-ish elo gameplay than gold level elo. Right, we keep auto-sending, and then this is something that you can do. We realize that the guy we're sending to, Blue, has essentially only Arcane and Swift units, and the one unit that is natural typing does pierce damage. So with the fortified pierce wave 9 coming up after wave 8, we decide to skip a little bit on wave 8. Totally fine. We still send one snail, and then we go big on wave 9 with a mimic, decent send. Again, I would have preferred a pack leader because we don't want to necessarily send the same type mercenary as the wave is. Wave is pierce, so sending a pierce mercenary is not ideal. You kind of want to complement the wave. I think a pack leader would make him league bigger. We might check that out later. Then resend on wave 10. Very good. They're both weak. Well, he has 2 nightmares on red, but he has 0 tank value for them, so he will league big. And then we skip wave 11, and because red has no tanks for wave 12, and I don't know exactly what blue's build is, we just go 12 and we win there. But this is essentially, if you start saving on wave 10 in gold elo and then target wave 12 or wave 13 essentially every game, after auto sending, you will very, very quickly climb out of that elo. So this was all very well done, and I think if YooCanFly continues playing like this, he will hit diamond in, I don't know, 20 games, 15 games maybe, I don't know. I think he will have a 80 to 90% win rate in gold with this playstyle. Yeah, and then around expert level, this will be sort of the norm what he's doing, I think. All right, let's hop into the game and talk about Elite Archer a little bit. And I want to showcase what you want to do with Chain Fist. So the first point I want to make is that you never want to open just Elite Archer and push 2 workers. It's bad. And why is it bad? Let me show you. This is wave 1, we have an Elite Archer, and suppose you get snailed. I know it happens very rarely, but it can happen. But you will leak very, very big. It's RNG how much you actually leak. I did a test run. Test run is 67%. Now we leak 75%. Okay, and Legion, this is something to sort of remember in general, is all about risk versus reward management. And what are we getting by not adding a tier 1 on wave 1? We are getting the 5th worker before the wave starts, before we've killed 3 creeps. And I think this is approximately 2 Mythium. So we are trading 2 Mythium that we have more for a chance to leak 75% or 67% on Ascend on wave 1. And personally, I don't think that's worth it. So what you want to do instead is you want to do a small split. And why is a split super important with Elite Archer? Because Elite Archer attacks 3 times additionally, and I think Trinity does even one more attack, but it's random. And having a split allows these random attacks to be focused on the left-hand side, so you can kill the left-hand side of the wave and reduce the DPS of the wave by a lot. So this is really, really, really what you want to do. You absolutely have to split with Elite Archer. Alright, so how do you do with a lower split against the snail? Lower split makes the snail go left, but I think you're still very fine because Chained Fist has very good typing. I guess you can see I killed the left hand side very, very quickly, and now the rest of the wave does very little DPS, and then I could push to my regular 6 workers. And with this opening, these units complement each other very well. This often allows you to push 6 workers for wave 3, where you end up just having Elite Archer and Oathbreaker, and if you get 40 as a send, you're very, very safe. I think 60 you leak small. This is because the Oathbreaker also quote-unquote deals AoE damage. You're killing the left-hand side, now it goes mad mode. Elite Archer isn't splitting super, like it's not splitting across all the wave, and you're doing very, very well. Yeah, as you can see, I full hold against the 40 cent with a 6 worker build. This is really, really a strong opening combination of units. Right. Then Elite Archer. Let me show the browser again. I mean, what we did is we didn't get punished on wave 1. We went for an even split with Elite Archer. This is something that's usually very good, but I would not necessarily recommend it in the early game, simply because of wave 5. Because this build, wave 5, the boss will go to the right with an even split. And what you want to do, ideally with Elite Archer, is have a lower split, so only the boss goes to the left, the Elite Archer tanks the boss, kills the boss, and the rest of the wave goes right. Right, some idiotic video creator forgot to unshare his browser, so it wasn't shown what I was talking about on wave 5. Don't know who that was, probably Shakara. It's his fault after all. But anyway, so we have this setup for wave 5. I like to place one tank here, maybe one here. Doesn't really matter. You can also put them one square further back. But this setup allows you to have the boss go left. The Elite Archer tanks only the boss. With some DPS behind it, the boss dies. Elite Archer survives, and now you've utilized the HP of the Archer early on to tank, so essentially you've given your units 500 more HP, which will really, really be beneficial for your build. But then you have to make sure for wave 6 that you add an upper split, and then the Archer will still sort of tank a little bit here. Like one unit. This is why I put the steed sort of where I put it, like 3 squares down and then 1 to the right, because now the Archer is tanking 1 or 2 creeps. Obviously, I don't have enough value. 390 value won't make me hold here, but the building idea should be clear. Alright, this is what I wanted to say about the Elite Archer thing. Again, Ofma's video is really, really good. It has a lot of details, and if you want to learn to play the opening, it's a decent opening, maybe even on the strong side, but it's very hard to pull off, so you really need to invest some time. Right, other things that YooCanFly did very well. Shut up, Legion. Anyway, is that he didn't push workers when he didn't get sent, and then after getting sent he pushed, which is good, which is essentially what you always want to do. Get saved, push value, get sent, push workers. Right. And then a final note that I want to make, right, I want to test the pack leader on 9. And one final note I want to make is that Legion spell choice. I see we're picking Allowance and we're picking Titan when we're going for a wave 12 send. I think given that counterattack was one of the choices, as you can see here, if you aim to do a one wave skip into a wave 12 send, picking an aggressive spell is always worth it. Counterattack gives you 60 Mythium, so even if you don't leak, it's decent value. Of course, it's better to do a small leak with a long wave and yada yada, but it's not super important to focus on in this elo. Just remember, if you want to go for a one wave skip only and really try to leak them, it's much better to go for an aggressive spell than a defensive spell or a scaling spell like Allowance and Titan. And also, I mean, this is something to keep in mind. Titan gives a unit more HP, and I think it's okay on Shadow Dancer because the clones will at some point tank, and with the Ocean Templar it has decent synergy, so I don't want to say it's a bad choice or whatever. But Titan is typically, again, this is a good choice for Titan, but typically you want it on units that tank rather than your DPS units. Again, I'm just pointing this out as this is gold elo where we are not super familiar with where to put which spell, and it's always tempting to just autopilot buffing spell on quote-unquote carry unit. But it's not always the best choice. I would recommend thinking about what the spell does. Is it something that amplifies damage? Do it on your DPS unit. Is it something that amplifies tank value? Do it on your tank. Put it on your tanks. Is it something that does both? Well, I think there's only Hero that really does this. Put it on something where the units have a lot of value. Right, and the final thing was that I wanted to test the wave 9, and then we will be done with this. Again, I think Mr. YooCanFly, as you see, he has a 94% win rate in ranked. I am not surprised. 55% win rate in classic, but as you can see, he's senior master, I think. I don't know what that rank is called. Purple badge in classic, which is already very, very decent. All right, let's test this. And load. Send pack leader. Right, there's one more thing. Let's test this first, and then I want to point something out. As you can see, no full mana on the Slime Siren. This is why this player would have wanted this further back, but we're in gold elo, so I'm not gonna complain about that. Yeah, okay. It's the same size league. Okay. I guess I'm just a bad player. That's insane to me that Mimic does so well here. Anyway, I guess it's because we didn't add good units for the wave. Right. Let's look at the browser again. What did we see on wave 8 that we decided to send Mimic into, and what did we add? Yeah, okay. Right. So in this case, Mimic did the same amount of damage as the pack leader, but I still think pack leader is the better send because if we look at this build, and if he doesn't add a good unit for wave 9, then he's going to leak big anyway. And if he adds a counter to wave 9, then he has a chance of doing well. So we really want to make sure that we can counter whatever he adds. So whether it's a Mudman or a Wanderer or a Treant or whatever, we really want to make sure that these units get countered. And this is why I prefer Pack Leader over Mimic in this spot. But again, I even would have preferred just auto-sending, given that we're already ahead. One final point is that there's no way 160 Mythium was A, either pre-income, or B, everything we had. So it's hard to say for me whether with a skip and 12 workers we had the 160 Mythium pre-income. I think we did. If we didn't, never ever skip to send post income. It's not worth it. Do not go for it. It's a bad choice. However, if this was pre-income, which I expect, then after income we had at least 40 Methium with the 15 workers, because that's 30 seconds. So we could have added a Robo, a DT, 2 snails, whatever. And if you are quote unquote red sending, so sending power mercenaries, always full send. Always continue sending after income. Ideally, we would want to have a brute, so pack leader brute, mimic brute, whatever, mole brute. This would do a lot more damage. And if we're committing to leaking them and sacrificing economy for it by red sending, we always want to go full. All right, and I think that's enough yapping from my part. I hope this sort of makes sense. So in general, just continue doing what you're doing. Watch the Elite Archer Guide by Ofma, do a lower split, but else you're doing incredibly fine and you'll keep learning as you're playing.